Good morning, fifth graders. So for today, I'm going to go over the answers for your chapter 6 review pages and then just kind of recap a little bit about what we're going to be doing this week in social studies. So let's go ahead and get started with lesson 1. So question number 1 asked us, why were many Americans satisfied with the Articles of Confederation? Well, originally, they were happy with the articles because it gave the states most of the power, and the central government wasn't really that strong. And remember, that's what we wanted because we had just fought the revolution against the British, who had a lot of power over us, and we didn't want to make that same mistake. So moving on to number 2, why did money cause confusion under the articles? It was very confusing because the United States of America had their own money, but then each state had their own money as well, and none of the money matched up. Each state's money was worth different amounts in different places, so it could be very confusing for people, especially those who were traveling, when it came to money. So that's why later we switched to having one kind of money across our entire country just to make things a little bit easier. All right, number 3, what was one effect from Shays' Rebellion? You should have circled B. Shays' Rebellion really showed us that we needed a stronger national government because our national government couldn't do anything about the rebellion. We didn't have a military. The federal government didn't have any power to stop our own people from rebelling. So it really kind of made them realize, oh, maybe we should give the federal government some more power so that way in the future, if something like this happens again, we could fix it. Number 4, in what way did the Northwest Ordinance affect Native Americans? So remember, that was the ordinance that kind of told how all the new land we got from the revolution could become states. And part of the ordinance said that it would protect Native Americans' land and wouldn't just take their land from them. But that's kind of basically what happened. Native Americans still had to fight to keep settlers from moving onto it. The government really didn't do a whole lot to stop people from taking Native American lands. So it really affected the Native Americans in a bad way. All right, let's move on to lesson 2, when we created the Constitution. So question number 5 was, what was the 3/5 compromise? Basically, that was 3/5 of enslaved people would count towards a state's population. So states that owned slaves, 3 out of every 5 slaves would be counted towards the state's population. Number 6 asked you, what check does the executive branch have over the legislative branch? And remember that the president, who's the leader of the executive branch, can veto a law approved by Congress. So Congress sends the laws to the president to sign into law, and if the president doesn't want to sign it, the president can veto it, which means it's basically like a no. I don't want this law. All right, for number 7, you had to write V, NJ, or GC. So one of them describes the Virginia plan, the New Jersey plan, and the Great Compromise. So for the first one, you should have put a V for Virginia. Larger states would have more representatives in Congress because Virginia was a larger state, and they're the ones that came up with the plan where representation would be based on state population. For the middle one, you should put up a GC. This is part of the Great Compromise. Basically, what it did was it combined the 2 different plans. Congress would have 2 houses. One would have equal representation to make the little states happy, and then one would have representation based on state population to make the larger states happy. And the last one should be NJ for New Jersey plan, because remember, they wanted each state to have the same amount of representation because they didn't want the little states to get left out and forgotten. I told you guys you could skip number 8. All right, moving on. All right, lesson number 3, the Bill of Rights. So now that the Constitution was written, there were a lot of people that weren't terribly happy with it, and that's kind of what number 9 talks about. The Anti-Federalists had 2 main objections to the Constitution. What were they? Well, the 2 things that they basically said was the problem was, 1, the federal government was too strong, and 2, there's no Bill of Rights. They were concerned none of our rights are protected. What's stopping the government from taking them away from us? Okay, so that's basically why the Bill of Rights got added, because a lot of states said, look, we're not going to ratify this until you protect our rights. All right, number 10, how did the Bill of Rights help the Constitution get ratified? Well, basically the state said, we'll only ratify this if you include the Bill of Rights. If they hadn't included the Bill of Rights, the Constitution may not have ever passed. So it was really important that they added that to make those states that were a little worried about it happy. All right, number 11, how does the Bill of Rights help citizens? Well, it protects our basic rights. It protects things like our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, the things that, we are used to in our everyday life, but they weren't always something that was protected. So that's how it helps us. All right, for number 12, you had to fill in the blanks. By 1790, all 13 states had ratified the United States Constitution. So make sure you fill in those blanks. All right, for number 13, you had to connect each branch of some of the military and then the Social Security with what they do to help us fulfill our promise in the preamble. So the preamble is like a very long sentence introducing the Constitution. So the National Guard ensures our domestic tranquility, because remember, the National Guard stays here in the United States or in our home. So domestic is another word from home. Armed forces provide for the common defense. Okay, so they defend us here and in other parts of the world. And then Social Security promotes our general welfare. So it gives income to older people and disabled people so that they can be safe and have the money to, buy food and pay their bills and that kind of thing. All right, number 14, this is our big question of the chapter. What's the purpose of government? Why do we have a government? So A, what purposes of government are stated in the preamble? So kind of ties back into this. It means that the government's going to give us all these different things. It's going to keep us safe. It's going to keep the peace. It's going to help us to live a fair life. And then B, how does the judicial branch help establish equal justice? Well, it decides whether laws follow the Constitution. Remember, that's the big thing that the Supreme Court does. It makes sure that laws are fair, that they don't go against the Constitution, and to make sure that we're treated fairly as citizens of our country. All right, so for our last page, you had to list some of the ways the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights affect your daily life and explain your choices. So a lot of you talked about freedom of religion and how it helps you to practice your faith. And some of you guys drew like pictures of you going to church. Some of you talked about how it allows you to speak up and you have freedom of speech. So you drew people speaking. Some of you talked about being safe and how police officers and the military keep us safe. So really, as long as you put something that's in the Bill of Rights here, it is correct. So there's no work for you guys to turn in today. You just need to check your answers. If you haven't done this work yet, make sure you get it turned in so you get credit. Tuesday and Wednesday, you guys are going to have your test review sheet to answer. It's going to be 20 questions. It's going to be due at the end of the day on Wednesday. Thursday, you won't have any work to turn in. It's just going to be check your review answers and watch my review video for your chapter test. And your chapter test is going to be on Friday. If you are missing anything from my class, make sure you turn it in, especially your tests and quizzes. If you can't find the reviews, let me know. I will email you and help you find them, because I want you guys to be using those reviews on your tests and your quizzes. Okay, as always, if you guys have any questions, please email me, and I'll see you this afternoon for our Zoom meeting at 2. Have a great day.